Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching The Wire Wrap. I'm Sravasti Dasgupta, and joining me today is MK Venu, founding editor at The Wire, and Javed Ansari. He's a senior journalist. Before we get into the big news that is grabbing national headlines, which is that the union budget has been presented for 24-25, this morning Prime Minister Narendra Modi, while giving a speech on Kargil Vijay Diwas in Ladakh's Kargil, said that the Agnipath scheme, which has been criticized by the opposition, and many observers have said that that is one of the reasons why the BJP has faced setbacks in Uttar Pradesh in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. This morning, Modi has said that the scheme originated from the army and not from his government. Now, just to say what he has said, he said that the scheme as a reform was suggested by the army, and he has accused the opposition of spreading misinformation and saying that the Modi government is trying to save money in the form of pensions through the scheme, which is not true. And he has also said that these reforms were essential, and those who are criticizing it are politicizing national security, and those were known for scams of hundreds of crores in the armed forces. Venu, how do you see this? This scheme, of course, earlier the former army chief, Naravne, he had said that the scheme had come as a bolt from the blue for the armed forces. But now Modi saying that it was a suggestion from the army.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather believe the former chief of Army, General Naravane. He has clearly written in his book that it came as a big surprise to the army, and then he said to the Navy and Air Force also it came as a bolt from the blue. So it's I would take that as the truth, because I have much greater faith in a former general to be speaking the truth than the Prime Minister, whose record, I must say, leaves much to be desired when it comes to speaking the truth and facing facts. And we all know how the Agniveer issue linked to employment, the massive unemployment in UP and other states, Hindi states, did play a big role. And the other issue is, in the run-up to the Agniveer program, which the government came up with, scheme, you can go to TV debates. Again, army people debating Agniveer, most of them opposing Agniveer, some supporting also. And many army guys who supported the Agniveer scheme and did so on the basis of the logic that there was a massive pension burden coming out of the army. So, one way of avoiding a kind of cascading, snowballing pension burden was to have temporary, Jawans under the Agniveer scheme. So, Mr. Modi is not even conceding that. The fact that, in fact, Jairam Ramesh has tweeted that this was an open debate at that time. As part of the reform, what the government was pushing the line that with this reform they will streamline the finances of the defense establishment by reducing the pension burden. So, this was also clearly part of the reform, by which the government is now denying. Now, obviously, they're denying because it's backfired. It's blown up on their faces. So that is that. And additionally, there are very senior army generals who have said that the Gurkhas who came into the Indian Army under the earlier regime, the regular recruitment program, had stopped coming after Agniveer. And Gurkhas, their contribution to there's a history to Gurkhas, and the Gurkha regiment in the Indian Army, and they're all joining the Chinese army now. So, if you take all these things together, I think it's been a huge disaster, this Agniveer, which the government is the only way Mr. Modi probably thinks he can counter this criticism, is to say that it was not his scheme. Just as Dharmendra Pradhan says that that NEET was not his scheme, or the BJP now saying.
Or that there have been no paper leaks.
There have been no paper leaks.
But Javed, I want to come to you on this. Do you think that Modi's statement this morning, of course, the opposition has accused Modi of politicizing even the Kargil Vijay Diwas. But the point is that the BJP government is facing a lot of criticism for this scheme, and a lot of observers and people like us who have reporters who have traveled to the ground in UP and Bihar have met the youth of this country who are dissatisfied with such a scheme. So is Modi now trying to backtrack, as Venu suggesting, from this scheme, which clearly seems to have backfired? But for all this time, the BJP was showing its strong arm mode, saying that it's all good. Today also he said that it's for keeping the army young. But again, he's blaming the army. So what really is going on in Modi's mind with regards to this, in your opinion?
Look, he sounds very confused on this, which is quite uncharacteristic of him. It's backfired. It's not just backfired. They paid a big political price for it, and they will continue to pay if they persist with this scheme. He's looking for a way out, and he's now firing over the army's shoulder. He wants to put the army in front, and generally people think twice before they question the wisdom of the armed forces, and therefore people will, or whatever decision the armed forces take, people generally take it at face value. As far as the veracity is concerned and where the truth lies, we know politicians, and particularly Prime Minister, he can be economical with truth. He has a way of words, and he just tries to hide behind them. You go across, you travel out of Delhi, and I've often seen people, and I'm sure because Venu travels a lot more than I do, you see a lot of these youngsters running on the side of the road. In this heat, at this hour of the day, in their shorts and bare feet, they'll run by the side of the road. And I used to often wonder, I said, there's something really wrong. They've gone crazy to be running under the, in the midday sun. So I once stopped and asked one of them. They said, I'm preparing for the physical, for paramilitary, for army, for police. We have to undergo a very rigorous physical test, and they make us go through these arts. So we're preparing for the worst case scenario. And look at the kind of disappointment those people are facing. You spend 4 years of your youth, because you join young in the army. You give the best years of your life, and at the end of the day, there is nothing. There is no pension, no medical cover, nothing. At least former earlier soldiers had, their families were covered. They were covered with, they used to get pension. They were taken care of in old age. There was these backup schemes where you had institutional backup. Now they are all deprived of these benefits. So, and therefore there is, every decision has consequences, and this has had very disastrous political consequences for the Bharatiya Janata Party. And the longer they persist, the more, the greater the price they'll have to pay.
Because Parliament is also on, we saw even during the special session, Rahul Gandhi had mentioned the case of one Agniveer who lost his life in January, and the family said that they had not received the money, and then there was a lot of back and forth on it. Finally, they said they have received the money, and so
insurance money.
Insurance money. Yeah, so there was a lot of confusion about what really was the money that has been paid to the family, what has been received, and how much is the government really paying. But the argument that Modi is making today is that if the opposition is trying to say that I'm trying to save money through pensions, the pensions are going to come 30 years later. So Modi is not saving money. How do you see this argument that he's making?
The best way of saving money is if he just shuts down all those vanity projects, the thousands of crores that are being spent on the so-called beautification, on this new house that is being built for him in the, in Rashtrapati Bhavan premises, the new house that they built for the vice president, the so-called beautification of Rajpath and Vijaypath. If they just stopped wasting all that amount of money on these vanity projects, they won't need to cut down money by depriving soldiers.
Actually, defense. You can't compromise on national security. You can't have half trained people standing on the borders facing Chinese soldiers. So you cannot cite pension burden as a reason to send less trained people on Agniveer kind of schemes to. I mean, you can look at other areas where you cut pension. I mean, it's just common sense. Why not CRPF? Why don't they introduce a short service in CRPF? I mean, CRPF is not so critical to national security as the army. Standing on the border, or in other areas. So you can't cite pension burden as a. And besides, okay, look at the bigger picture. India's spend on defense is still among the lowest. It's probably less than 2% of GDP. Maybe 1.5. In fact, there was a report by Murli Manohar Joshi, their own senior most member of parliament, when he was chairman of Public Accounts Committee.
Yes.
He had come out with a report that spending on defense was rather abysmally low, and most of its revenue expenditure, which is of course paying for, because India still has a large number of soldiers, because we have such long borders, right? So I don't think you can compromise on that. There's no way you can cite future pension burden as a reason to have substandard badly trained people on the borders.
And really, at the heart of this is, of course, the problem of employment, which is why youth across the country have voiced their criticism against this scheme, and which has also led the opposition to galvanize on these lines. But since we are talking about employment, earlier this week, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the first budget of the NDA government, and this is the NDA government because this is the government which is being led by Modi, but in which he does not have a full majority, which is in a sense reflected in the government that was presented, with a lot of opposition parties alleging that only two states, Bihar and Andhra Pradesh, have been favoured in the budget. Before we get into the politics of that, I think the main thrust of what is being talked about in the budget, which all our viewers are really interested in knowing, is the fact that the government has finally, in a sense, acknowledged the unemployment problem in the country. So the Congress is saying that they have copied ideas from their manifesto, the Nyaya Patra, and copied the internship scheme and all of that. But would you say that the unemployment crisis has been acknowledged by these schemes, which is called the Prime Minister's package of employment, and does it do enough to address the crisis?
So answer to your part one of your question. Acknowledged, yes. Acknowledgement has come after these defeats, devastating poll defeats in UP, in other places, and acknowledgement has also come in the form of. It is true that Congress's manifesto, they have just copy pasted some of the schemes. They have just changed the names. It's here it's called internship. There it was called apprenticeship. Yeah. In fact, the other day, Praveen Chakravarti, who along with Mr. P. Chidambaram was part of the manifesto committee, Praveen Chakravarti, he said on our channel that Mr. Modi described the Congress manifesto as one of Muslim leagues. Yeah. So he said he was very happy that he had copy pasted Muslim League's a key element of Muslim League's manifesto and pasted it onto in the budget.
In fact, Sitharaman had also said that it's unimplementable, and most of these ideas.
Having said that, most economists that I have spoken to, in fact today, Pranab Sen, the former chief statistician of India, has said that it is a drop in the ocean. They have only just touched the surface by just getting 1 crore plus or whatever, 2 crore youth, getting them into internships, or getting them into government paying for a couple of months salary or whatever, and contributing to the EPF the EPF contribution of the employees. It is not a permanent solution. There is no knowing whether the private sector, the 500 top companies with whom these internships will start, whether they will absorb them. The private companies have started asking questions. Economic Times has a story yesterday saying we still don't know what the details of the scheme are, and per company, one calculation shows that per company 4,000 interns would be delivered. The companies are all shivering. They don't know what will happen. How will they absorb 4,000? So very badly designed, and not going to solve the unemployment problem. Essentially, they have the economy has to grow organically. Demand has to grow, incomes have to increase in people's hands. Only then will private sector invest more and hire more people. At the moment, what's happening is most industries are operating at below full capacity, 70 to 75% capacity. A new investment will not be made by a steel company or a motorcycle company, auto company, if existing capacity is not fully utilized, right? So if they don't make new investment, new employment will not happen. So there has to be demand growth, which is not happening, and most economists are saying that is the root cause. If they don't address the sluggishness in consumer demand, the economy will not grow at the pace needed to absorb 10 million, 12 million new entrants into the labor market. So you have to grow at 9%, 10%. At 7%, it's not happening, and the low ambition economic survey talks about 7% growth. At 7%, the entrants into the labor market, the young, will not be absorbed. And mind you, the latest CMI survey, now this is shocking statistic. Latest CMI survey says for the month of June, the month just gone by, total unemployment rate is 9.1%, but unemployment in the age group of 15 to 25 is upward of 40%.
Right.
40% unemployment, if Javed, correct me if I am wrong, was the unemployment rate cited during the Bihar assembly election.
Yes.
Remember, they used to say Bihar 40% unemployment.
But behind all this acknowledgement of the joblessness crisis and unemployment is, of course, the BJP's electoral losses. So, do you see this budget acknowledging the setbacks that the BJP has faced in the elections in terms of addressing the unemployment crisis? And of course, we'll get into the Bihar and Andhra Pradesh bit in just a moment. But earlier, the BJP was never willing to acknowledge that it has messed up in terms of the unemployment situation in the country. But with this budget, they seem to be saying that yes, there is a problem.
Yeah, there is a tacit admission. This is a tacit admission. They will never, at least Mr. Modi doesn't have it in him to acknowledge, because he's been sent by God. He's not a normal human being like Venu, me or you. So he's been sent by God. He can't, he's infallible in his own mind. See, the easiest thing in the world is to be a legend in your own mind, to pat yourself on the back. We are world's greatest growing economy, third largest economy. All that is fine. But 800 million families in India, out of 1.4 billion people, 800 million families still have to be provided with free meals. 60% of the people in this country earn less than one or just about a rupee a day.
But when you speak to people, I mean, in my experience of reporting during the elections, a lot of people said that Modi has taken India's economy forward. He has...
the rich have got richer, the poor have got poorer, and it's the poor which are hurting, and it's the poor which have begun to now get back at this government. It's not enough. If you look at this wedding which was held recently, if you're sitting abroad, and you suddenly believe, oh my God, look at Indians, look at the way they're celebrating. Nobody in the West has a wedding like that. But it's be a gigantic blunder to assume that the entire country is, has that kind of money to waste. Here people can barely make two ends meet. I just cited figures. I said these are all government figures. This is not my saying. So the picture on the ground is very different. I come from a village where people, still fight to make their to make two ends meet, to put food on the table, to send their children to school. It's all right to say I built so many. He went to the UN and he wrote out his domestic agenda, read out saying I built so many toilets, I've done this, I've done that. On paper, everything. Even if 50% of what he had said is right, then India should be, right up there with everybody else. But to just go outside of Delhi and see them.
But tell me, a lot of reporters, when they went out for elections, they were reporting very severe livelihood problems.
Yeah, the first thing that everybody said wherever we went was the fact that mehengai and berozgari.
But they would say, but they were at the same time they would say, मगर लोग कह रहे हैं कि हिंदुस्तान बहुत
आगे बढ़ गया है,
बहुत आगे बढ़ गया है. Yeah, लोग कह रहे हैं. They used to say लोग कह रहे हैं. मगर हम जहाँ हैं वहीं हैं. So there was a lot of nuance in what people were saying. Yeah.
So, but of course, the other part of the budget which has been presented, which is continuing, we are seeing in Parliament because the session is still underway, is the fact that the opposition has termed the budget a Kursi Bachao budget because of the push that has been given to the states of Bihar and Andhra Pradesh. The BJP.
It's been called 2AB. Yeah.
Yeah. 2AB.
A square plus 2AB plus. Yeah. Very
plus 2 square is
Prime Minister's popular equation, algebra equation actually.
So the opposition is saying that the budget is anti-federal, favouring two states in opposition to others. And now, just to give the government's defence as well, Sitharaman has responded to Mallikarjun Kharge yesterday in Parliament when he said that only two states have been favoured and no other states had been mentioned. Sitharaman said that it's not possible to mention every state while reading your budget speech, and the Congress itself has presented so many budgets in Parliament. They should be aware of this. Since you have followed politics for so long, is the primacy that is being given to these two states in a coalition government something new that we are seeing that the opposition is claiming, or is it branded in such a way? How should one see this?
The manner in which it's been done is, at least I can't recall instantly. Yeah. Maybe I don't know if Venu can, but I can't recall instantly where just two states, the two crutches on which this government survives, they've unashamedly, earlier also people did this, they'd favour.
But Javed, it's only happened when states were formally bifurcated. Telangana or Jharkhand at that time as a
time of creation to help them.
Yeah, creation. Yeah, then it became a policy
to get on to the feet, and that didn't happen because you were dependent on your survival on those states. Yeah. That happened because there were new states. They had to get the paraphernalia to put the infrastructure.
The Finance Commission gave them that. Yeah. It was done as a proper constitution.
This is a political decision. This is not an economic decision. This is a political decision. They need to ensure that these two. This is like greasing the palms of the allies. They need to ensure that Mr. Nitish Kumar and Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, both people who we know very well, and they have a very checkered record. There is a certain elasticity to their politics. They don't bat an eyelid in, changing their position.
But I have a different take on this.
Yeah, also I want to mention the fact that you're saying that perhaps the manner in which we have not seen before, but yesterday in Parliament, the JDU MP said that when Mamata Banerjee was the railway minister in the 90s and 1996, Bihar used to be constantly asking for funds and for railway lines, and she would give all the projects to Bengal and Bihar would be neglected. So this is not the first time that someone has favoured a certain state. It depends on who's in power and who they want to give the money to. Is that true?
See, that to some extent that may be true. The railway minister, the constituency that minister came from, he was allowed a certain, always, correct me if that, some latitude. Like if Lalu was the railway minister, there'll be some optics about Bihar getting more. But I'm saying something else. My contention is that while the rhetoric that the budget speech keeps up and is that Bihar and Andhra Pradesh have to be given something. Of course, for survival. Of course, budget. She didn't say for survival, but it was the optics was they were being given something very substantive. In my view, nothing substantive has been given so far. Now hear me out. For Amravati, 14,000, 15,000 crore, it's a World Bank loan, right, at 4% or whatever. The center is merely counter guaranteeing. Center counter guarantees all World Bank loans to various state projects. So that's why the word uses center is arranging World Bank loan. The real allocation is for Polavaram Dam, which Naidu has during his term 2014 to 2019, he finished about 65 to 70%, and during Jagan's say 5 years completely stalled. Polavaram Dam original cost was 60,000 crore. Now the revised cost is doubled to about 1,20,000, 1,30,000 crore, and for completing the remaining 30%, in my estimate, they will need at least 40,000 crore. Not a single paisa has been allocated in this budget, and TDP MPs have told me this, that we are still waiting for that. Now we'll have to see when. And Polavaram Dam has been listed as Amravati and Polavaram Dam, right? Two key projects. And Polavaram Dam is trying to basically connect Godavari and Kaveri river by damming as the river goes into the sea. Before that, it has a good flow, Godavari and Kaveri, and then provide water to a vast area, Rayalaseema and all, which are very arid regions. So that has not happened. Now, the rhetoric is that something has been done, but in my view, neither Bihar nor Andhra Pradesh have got what was originally promised under the special status mechanism. Neither.
Yeah, this is what I want to ask you, Javed, because even in the all-party meeting, we saw that all these JDU once again raised the demand of special category status. For Andhra Pradesh, TDP did not do so, but YSRCP said that they demanded it. After the budget has been presented, JDU has not said that they are unhappy, but they have not very
they've not said they are very happy.
They have not said they are happy either, and they have reiterated in a sense that special category status is something that the party is looking for. They are not okay with what is being given at the moment, though they have not categorically said this. But the YSRCP, interestingly, on the other hand, we were seeing there were some overtures with some India Alliance members going and meeting Jagan when he was in Delhi. But yesterday in Parliament, the YSRCP MP Vijay Sai Reddy, he hit out at both the NDA and the India party, saying that you neither have done anything and we have got nothing. So how must one see these two allies, since they are being made the point of criticism for everyone? Have they got what they wanted, and is there room for them to create problems for the BJP perhaps?
There's always room for them to create problems, because whether you, assuming for arguments, I mean, look at the numbers speak for themselves in Parliament. If either of the crutches moves, it'll just come tumbling down.
They can say they have independence.
They'll come, this whole edifice will come tumbling down. So they have to be kept in good humor. Both of them are in a very enviable position. Mr. Naidu is a great, he's very good at making the centre loosen the purse strings. Nitish Kumar, because the RJD is beating down his neck and they have been taunting him that what happened to the special status business, that main demand has been ignored. So he's making noises, but that is more to blunt criticism from his opponents rather than aimed at the centre. But no matter how much they get or they don't get, I do not rule out anything as far as, especially where the JDU is concerned. It will depend on the politics going forward, because right now this is the honeymoon period for this government, and there isn't that burning issue. You need to have an issue around which you can galvanize people. So it's also the JDU in the probably privately is happy that at least the main demand has not been given. So at some point of time, if and when they decide to part ways, they will cite this. They could cite this as one of the examples.
But usually in budgets, we see that if there are key elections in states, then those states get some kind of preference in terms of announcements of some projects. But this time, even though there are key elections in Maharashtra, Haryana, there have not been any special Jharkhand. There have not been any special announcements. So is it more important?
Although the Maharashtra budget has announced a similar employment scheme where fresh graduates will be given 10,000 rupees per month for some months,
So would it imply then that for the BJP at the moment it is more important to consolidate at the centre than to look at the state?
Consolidate, at the centre, and also don't forget they have to deal with UP. There's an internal battle going on with UP. Why do you think Mr. Modi is not to be seen? Because he's dealing with he and Amit Shah are dealing with UP at the moment. Before they start dealing with the opposition, India Alliance, they have to deal with...
they are caught between the devil and the deep sea. They have to ensure that the central government is stable enough, and it lasts some time. At the same time, they need to be mindful of the fact that if they lose these three elections, Maharashtra, Jharkhand and Haryana, then the ground will shift real from under the feet. Then this instability factor will grow, because in people's mind this impression will gain further ground that this is a government which is on the wrong side of popular opinion, and people have turned against it, and as a result of it, not just the a lot of institutions will then suddenly start flexing their muscles. Their political capital will dwindle. It has dwindled. It will dwindle further if they lose these. These 3 states are crucial. If the India alliance can hold it, so defeat them in these 3 states, this will really put the skids under this government.
In Maharashtra and Haryana, both the BJP has already suffered in 2024 in comparison to 2019. So these 2 state elections are key for them. But before we move on from the budget, the one final point that I want to discuss is the fact that the budget does not make any serious allocation for the census. So the amount that has been allocated for the census in this budget is a modest 1306 crores. In 2021 to 2022, when the decadal census was supposed to be conducted, remember it happens every 10 years, it was about 3768 crores. Now there has been a delay because of the pandemic. In 2021 it could not be conducted. In 2019 the cabinet had sanctioned about 12,700 crores as expenditure for both the census as well as the National Population Register. Now the census has already been delayed, but a lot of the things that the BJP is promising, the women's reservation bill, the implementation of that is dependent on the census, because they have said that first delimitation will happen, then census will happen, then they will implement the women's reservation bill. So how is this going to play out really? The government once again not really saying that census is not going to happen, but the figures are saying that it's unlikely to happen. So yet they are trumpeting the women's reservation bill that we have brought it. So what's really going on here?
The women's, if they were really that keen on women's reservation, then how many women did they field during these elections? Forget the census. How many women did they field during these elections? How many women were given tickets? Barring Mamata Banerjee's party, no other party, and I am told the BJD, yes, I'm not sure, but I am told the BJD, no other party came anywhere close to giving even 40% reservation to women, leave alone more. So this is all lip service that was done for to try and gain some kind of political advantage during the last Lok Sabha elections, which didn't come their way. It's surprising that because they have laid a great store in this huge new parliament that's been built, there is a capacity for an increase of the Lok Sabha numbers by 200.
Yeah, and when it was built, there was a lot of speculation that it's so big because they planned to.
That was the reason it was given.
Yeah.
But all those calculations have gone awry, because I don't think Naidu comes from the south. I don't think it'll be easy to convince Naidu about.
Yeah, this will really accentuate the north-south divide.
Yeah. Naidu is firmly, whatever you say, is part of the southern, this thing, grouping,
So you're saying delimitation is unlikely.
Census, if they delay census, census actually also needed for other things. Huh?
Yeah.
Census needed to for welfare programs.
Yeah.
I read an interview of or an article by the first CEO of Ayushman Bharat, Modi's flagship health insurance scheme. He talked about it in UN as India's Obamacare. 50 crore people, health insurance. The CEO of I'm forgetting, Indu Bhushan, his name is. He said because of lack of data, we are not able to identify beneficiaries. He wrote this in Times of India just 6-7 months ago. Yeah. And these people, this government has systematically destroyed, or not destroyed, just messed with data. And they mess with data because after messing with data, then they can say anything, they can build their narrative. It helps their narrative. So all the narratives are shorn of, it doesn't have any
factual.
Yeah, because there is no data. Yeah, even their own government economists, Surjit Birla has written in Times of India, complete supporter of Modi, that we need data, we need census, we need this, otherwise we can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
This is their own economists saying,
And even the flagship programs of the Modi government, whether it's the fact that they keep saying that 80 crore people are getting free rations, but there's an article in the Wire itself, you can go ahead and read it, by Amrita Jori and Anjali Bhardwaj, where they say that about 10 crore people are estimated to be left out of the food security net because the census has not been conducted. So, and that's just one aspect. There are a lot of other welfare schemes, whether it is Awas Yojana or anything else, even though the fact is that the budget has increased the allocations to these schemes, whether it's Awas Yojana or Jal Jeevan Mission, but who are the beneficiaries is a big question that needs to be answered. And before we wrap up, let us quickly also discuss the other big thing that came out of Parliament this week, was the fact that Dharmendra Pradhan, facing a lot of heat from the opposition over paper leaks and NEET and NET, said that there has been no paper leaks in the last 7 years. Yet, some time back, last month, he himself addressed a press conference in which he said that the NET examination had to be cancelled because the paper was leaked on the dark web. So, what is the Modi government really playing, and how must one see this? This is again a huge issue where the opposition is cashing in on. It appeared that the government was course correcting, there are probes happening, but now he goes and says that there have been no paper leaks.
So this is typical of them.
They're following the leader. Nothing has happened. Nobody has entered.
Koi aaya nahi,
China
koi
has
mara
not
nahi.
transgressed into India.
No soldiers have lost their life, not an inch of territory is gone.
They said in the Supreme Court that nobody during COVID, they said there are no migrants walking on the road. I mean, they live in a fantasy world, actually.
So this really has, of course, bolstered the opposition's view as well. But NEET and NET have not gone off the radar yet. People are still looking for answers.
Yeah, because people are suffering. You talk to people, you talk to students, you talk to aspirants. Look at the kind of effort that goes in. My nephew, 2 years ago, he appeared for this, and I know for 2 years he was just lost to the world. He was just focused on that. Because it's a very, very tough exam to crack, and plus you're competing against so many people. And then suddenly, I know of cases where people have travelled overnight to try and to appear to centres where they were supposed to appear for the exam. They get off the train and then they're told, no, it's been cancelled. Imagine what happens. Put yourself in that position and see. So you can muzzle the opposition, you can muzzle the media, you can muzzle everybody, but people who have suffered. They are not going to forget it. And you can keep saying anything you want. You can don a military cap and pretend like your Field Marshal Manekshaw, but that doesn't take away any from the facts. This is what happened in the past also with Agniveer, with the Kisan, with the fact that Kisans were unhappy, with the fact that there was no unemployment. They were denying everywhere Mr. Modi went, he was telling the world, oh, we are the biggest economy. This is happening, that is happening. He was generating employment through, gobar gas. So you're cooking pakoras, so that's also employment. So when that's your understanding of economy, then
I'll give you one very simple example of fantasy. They create a delusion, which is the RBI has released data, RBI sponsored data, some organization claims has released data which shows that during COVID years 2021, GDP was halving, employment was doubling. Now this is the fantasy that they are creating, because they are saying, as Santosh Mehrotra, economist, has explained on our channel, Wire, all those people who went to the villages, 6 crore people, 60 million people went back to the villages after 2020, and then 2022 about 5 years, 2024. They're all being treated as employed, because anybody who goes to a village even spends 1 hour in the field, just looking at the field, employed, agriculture worker. So this massive move back to agriculture is being treated as new employment.
Yeah. And finally, before we wrap up, let's just take quick comments on the fact about how Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla is showing little different attitude towards the opposition, perhaps in comparison to the previous two Modi governments and the Lok Sabha sessions. We saw Abhishek Banerjee of the TMC kind of really give it back to him when he suggested. So Abhishek Banerjee was speaking about demonetization, and Om Birla said that you speak about the budget. The demonetization was in 2016. He hit back and said that you speak about emergency, but you're not letting us speak about this.
You speak about Jawaharlal Nehru, but
Jawaharlal Nehru. So is there, the opposition in a sense not allowing the speaker to be as partisan as he would like?
the results, they've energized the opposition, and you can't wish away the fact that they are no longer 44. They are close to 244. You can't wish away that fact if the opposition, if you can't muzzle the opposition anymore and hope to run the house. It'll be totally paralyzed, and that's why both presiding officers have now tried to moderate the way they've been conducting the house, and the ground reality speaks for themselves. The numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah. And okay, my take on this is, earlier, the previous Lok Sabha and Rajya, both the speaker and the Rajya Sabha chairperson, they were partisan in favor of BJP on a scale of 1 to 10. Both were 9.5 partisan in favor of BJP. Now they are moderating to about 6, 7. So from where they were, they are having to, as Javed said, having to recognize the change in the composition of the house,
I think a reflection of that was also yesterday when Dhankhar responded to Sanjay Singh's jibe about increasing the jail budget, and he told Nadda, please look into this.
And he said that it's for everybody. Sanjay Singh said, you guys will go to jail next time,
The Lok Sabha speaker, even in the last parliament, in the first couple of first 2.5, 3 years, he was on very good terms with opposition leaders. Every evening he used to invite them on one pretext or the other. They share a meal. He had very good personal relations. Then somebody, and we know who, we can only guess who the somebody was. He was told to tighten it up to put an end to this, and then all those things happened. For the first time in the history, 144 Lok Sabha MPs were expelled from the house. It has never happened. I have covered parliament for 40 years. I have never seen something like this happen. I've seen opposition resigning en masse, but I've never seen, the entire opposition, almost the entire opposition being expelled.
That was the case of the ruling party weaponizing this
majority
speaker. They just weaponized him.
But things seem to be a little different in Parliament this time, and the session is still underway. So we will be keeping all eyes on all these developments that are taking place in Parliament and outside. Thank you so much, Venu and Javed, for joining us on this week's The Wire Wrap, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching.